This house at 63 Federal Street is where Harriet Beecher Stowe lived for the 2 years she was in Brunswick. She and her husband, a Bowdoin professor, rented the house from 1850 to 1852. It was here where she wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin as a serial novel, a book that helped set off the Civil War.
It became a runaway bestseller. It was here in this house where she lived with her 6 children that most of the writing of this novel happened. She wrote the novel around her various housekeeping duties.
Stowe may have written some of the book in this very room, a front parlor. Very likely she entertained in here and read some of her chapters out loud to visitors, which included Joshua Chamberlain.
This novel was very much written in the spirit of the place, which is that there were intellectuals here. Her husband, of course, Calvin Stowe, was an intellectual. She herself was intellectual, and she shared chapters with members of the Bowdoin community.
In addition, Stowe harbored a fugitive slave, John Andrew Jackson, in one of the house's back rooms.
She takes him in, she gives him food, she gives him a meal, she gave him $5, and she provided him with instructions of how to get out of here. In our best guess, this is probably the space where the fugitive slave was kept.
Because of the history of the home, even Longfellow lived here at one point, as much of the house as possible has been preserved, although many of the finer details came shortly after Stowe's time here. Don Borkowski of Bowdoin oversaw the renovations.
We retained as much as we could. There's a lot of mixing with old and new in here.
When Bowdoin began the renovations, the house was in pretty bad shape, with many of the rooms looking a bit like this front parlor, which when it is finished will be a space that commemorates Stowe and her legacy. It will have an exhibit and be open to the public. With help from historic architect Nancy Barbet, Bowdoin set about fixing up the dilapidated house. The college paid attention to details like replacing these glass panes and adding a new piece of marble where it had broken off from the fireplace. Unlike some other details in the house, it's likely the kitchen fireplace was the original one. Stowe probably did a lot of cooking on it.
This is how they had hot water. They basically had that big tub, the cast iron tub in there. They would build a fire underneath, and that would give them hot water all day long.
If you've read anything by Harriet Beecher Stowe, one of the key features of all of her novels is the domestic sphere. And so the fact that Bowdoin College decided to preserve as much as it could of the house is a remarkable thing, because it's a testament not only to the legacy of Harriet Beecher Stowe, but also to the kind of discourse of domesticity. So the whole environs of living in this house really did inspire much of her sentimental fiction.